So now we're past the first 2 months. So what good is the exercise? So it has a few good benefits. I guess the biggest thing for me at my age is the mental benefits I get. Um, it's very relaxing when I exercise. If I have any stress in my body and I exercise, stress goes away. It's hard to stay stressed when you're exercising and you're pushing yourself and going jogging outside and things like that. As a matter of fact, there was a challenge that I used to do for my patients, which was called the Little Red Schoolhouse Challenge. The Little Red Schoolhouse is a kind of a nature center that's out in the Palos type area, and if you went to it, there was a trail that they had where you could walk around the nature. The challenge was you had to get around that trail. Now, how is that a challenge? Well, for somebody who is angry at his wife or somebody who's angry at her husband, if you start that trail, and that trail is maybe about a mile long, and you finish that trail and you can tell me what you were angry about, you just lost a challenge. Actually, you probably won because you got rid of all your anger. But that's kind of what happens when you exercise a little bit. And usually if your husband and wife is walking that trail, they're usually talking a little bit, so they're communicating. They're letting go of all their stresses. So by the time they're finished, they're doing pretty good. So the mental aspect of exercise is real important. Um, when I was going through medical school, there was a heck of a lot of stress. So, after I came home from school, I used to go out for a jog, and I'd feel so relaxed by the time I got home. Everything was great. Um, I think it's the only thing that got me through medical school because it was very stressful. Um, the other thing with the exercise is some things with the body. Now, one of the things is that exercise increases the flow of blood. Um, and to do that, the body has to dilate up the blood vessels. When we talk about conditioning of the muscles, what actually is happening is the body is actually growing blood vessels into the muscle so that it can get oxygen and food faster. If you have like one big vessel going to the muscle, that's kind of inefficient. If you take that one big vessel and you turn it into 100 tiny little vessels, now you got something. So that's basically what happens is you grow these things called capillaries, which are tiny little blood vessels that kind of spread out the circulation throughout. And basically this way you can get the oxygen and food to your muscles so much faster. It also means that all these blood vessels are more in number and bigger in volume. And what does that mean for you? Well, if you have more volume in your system, the pressure drops. I think it's called Laplace's law, pressure versus volume, something like that. I can't remember. That was something I learned, I think, in either chemistry or physics class. Laplace's law. I think it's Laplaces, if I remember it. Any event, yeah, if you increase the volume, you decreased the blood pressure. Who else does this? Pregnant ladies. When they are helping out the baby with their own blood, they're increasing the volume and their blood pressure has a tendency to drop. So initially when they go to their doctors, they have a low blood pressure and sometimes they even faint. They can develop high blood pressure. That's true later on in pregnancy, right before delivery, but initially at least the blood pressure is low. Again, another thing that happens with exercise is its effect on the heart. The heart needs oxygen too, and the heart gets oxygen from itself. Basically, when the heart pumps blood to the rest of the body, it also pumps blood to itself too. And so if you give a lot of good oxygen and good food to the heart is doing much better. And typically when people exercise, their heart actually builds up just like a muscle. When we look at bodybuilders, they have a very strong heart. And they need that so they can pump the blood through the muscles when they're lifting heavy weights. The runner has a big heart in volume because for a runner, you have to pump a large volume of blood to the muscles. Again, when I'm running, I'm really putting a lot of need for oxygen and food, and the only way to get it there is my heart has to pump the blood faster. So when you're exercising, you may actually pump 3 times as much blood as you normally would. And so to do this, the heart really kind of starts pushing overtime. There's a number of efficiency called the ejection fraction of the heart. Now, I've had my ejection fraction tested. It's about 50. That actually kind of sucks. Many people have 55 or 60. I don't know why mine is so low, but whatever. But during exercise, that efficiency may go up as high as 85%. So that basically you're pumping the blood better and more efficient and larger volumes. Again, when I was in my practice years ago, I met a young man who was playing basketball and baseball and football, all 3 sports at the same time, basically. He was in high school, great shape, everything. So at that time, I was doing a sports physical. And so as part of the sports physical, I had to check his pulse, and then I had to have him do some exercise. So I checked his pulse, it was 70. And then I said, okay, so start hopping up and down on this stool. So the teenager hopped up and down on this stool for about 2 minutes when I timed him with my watch. And then after the exercise, I checked his pulse. It was 70. He had not changed his heart rate at all. What he had done basically was he changed his stroke volume by basically making his heart bigger and expanding it so he pumped out a lot more blood. He didn't need to increase the heart rate because he just pumped more blood. So the heart, when you're exercising, it can become more efficient. And this really is kind of good exercise for the heart. They have noticed that people who exercise have less heart attacks and strokes than the average population. Now, that's not to say you can't have a heart attack. Supposedly, the story goes that one person dies in the Chicago Marathon every year. I don't know if it's every year, but I know there have been plenty of stories of people who collapsed during the Chicago Marathon and had to be taken to the hospital right away. So it definitely happens that people, even when they're in great shape, can still have a heart attack. So that happens. Also, of course, you're exercising your muscles, so your muscles get stronger, and you can do more things. So if you start doing exercise and your legs get stronger, what does that mean to an older person? Well, maybe they can get up out of this, up and down the stairs more easily. Maybe they can get up off of the chair more easily. Maybe they can get into the bathtub, more easily, and get out of the bathtub more easily without having to be afraid. So when you're in good condition, a lot of good things happen.